Hello and welcome back to Crypto Saving Experts, where we talk about the latest cryptocurrency news and take a look at the markets so that we all know exactly what is happening. My name is Jess and we do these live streams every single weekday. So if you are new here, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that bell notification button. We've got some pretty interesting news to discuss today. Obviously, we've all heard by now the UK has officially entered a recession according to the official recession description and kind of definition in the UK. We are also taking a look at Bitcoin, which has reached a new all-time high in 21 countries so far in 2024. Hopefully we see that be the case with the US dollar as well, but we will be going into detail about all of this today. So make sure to stay tuned until the very end and we will be analysing the Bitcoin price there as well. So let's see what's going on. Good morning, Monkey Nuts in the chat. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin here. We are up another 1.94% to $52,350. Ethereum up nicely as well to $2,800, up 1.54%. So really nice moves here, both performing incredibly well within the last week. If we take a look at the Bitcoin price, we got a confirmation bounce of that previous level of resistance a couple of days ago, and now we are seeing some real upwards momentum here. I know I'm definitely feeling cautious at these levels because Bitcoin has had such a sharp move to the upside, but we do need to remember that Bitcoin does have the potential to just do this for a very long period of time. Let's see what's going on with the Ethereum Bitcoin price though, because as I've just said, Ethereum has still yet again been outperformed by Bitcoin within the last 24 hours. We are seeing this chart hit some pretty low numbers and pretty low levels at this part in the market. I'm definitely keeping a close eye on this because, as I've been saying, I think now is a pretty nice time to be diversifying. I want to make sure I get that timing right. We are currently looking at this chart where if this chart is going to the downside, Bitcoin is outperforming Ethereum. And if it's going to the upside, Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. So we have seen in the last weeks, a couple of weeks, since that kind of bounce for Ethereum following Bitcoin ETFs going live, Bitcoin has once again regained that kind of market share against Ethereum and has now been outperforming Ethereum since back in September 2022. And I'm interested to see how long this will last. I think Ethereum has a lot of potential within this coming bull market, and I want to be taking advantage of that as well. Let's take a look at what's going on though for Bitcoin. Let's go into a little bit more detail here and see what's happening. So on the daily chart, we are up obviously very nicely to $52,250. If we take a look at these levels in the previous cycle, you can see that we did have a strong level of resistance at this exact point here from between December 21, just during December 21 actually, and then we can see that we have one very close after this at 52,850 from back in September. If we actually pull these all the way back, we can see where these have been used in previous times as well. So I'd say this is all a really important zone. If we manage to get a daily candle close above that $53,000 level, that would be nice to see. That would be very, very nice to see. I think we just need to take this day by day because if you take a look at previous cycles, you can see like the upwards momentum and the potential that Bitcoin has to absolutely just rip to the upside and not give anybody a second chance to invest in this on a pullback. Bitcoin does have that potential. However, we've all been in the markets long enough now to know that Bitcoin can experience 20-30% pullbacks in these parabolic runs, between these parabolic runs. So to get this right, at this point in the markets, we need to be taking it day by day, looking at what resistances we have, looking at what supports we have, and seeing which is going to break and where we can next predict from there. So right now, we have seen resistance after resistance being broken. We are now at that next zone of resistance. So I'm keeping a cool head on here, seeing if we can break through this. If we can, brilliant. If we get a confirmation bounce, brilliant. If we do get rejected from this, then we need to be looking down at those levels of support, but still playing it cool each way because Bitcoin has the potential to dramatically move in either direction for this part of the cycle. I mean, for the next 6 months, we are in this kind of phase where Bitcoin can absolutely moon and it can absolutely tear to the downside as well, because this is the parabolic stage that we are in. This is the volatile period that we are in. So we just need to be prepared for that in the markets right now. If we take a look at the countdown for the Bitcoin halving, We are now only 62 days away from Bitcoin's inflation rate being halved. Very nice to see that this is approaching it closer and closer. Typically, a Bitcoin halving does trigger a bull market. So fingers crossed this upwards momentum does continue the way we've been seeing within the last couple of days. And we all make a lot of money. That would be absolutely lovely. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat. Good morning, Who's. Good morning, PG, Justin, Rob, and Rob. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, I've got my coffee with me this morning because it's a little bit cold. It's not too cold outside. It's just cold inside. It's actually a warmer day today than it has been for the last couple of weeks, and you can actually notice a difference. Let's take a look at. First of all, where is everyone in the chat today? We've had people from Australia. We've had people from in the Philippines. I know a lot of us are in rainy England, but it's not too rainy today. It's not too bad today. Let's take a look at what's going on here. So, first article of the day. Really bullish. I really like this news. Bitcoin can easily hit a new all-time high by March 2024, according to QCP Capital. So Bitcoin's ongoing push above $50,000 due to ETF demand and general market optimism could provide enough momentum for Bitcoin to hit a new all-time high before the halving. Now, I like this news. I like the fact that we are being so optimistic. I think there's a huge amount of potential here. As I was saying in yesterday's stream, $50,000 Bitcoin and anything above that is absolutely crazy. At these price points, this is kind of like the top of the previous. I know $69,000 was the actual peak of the cycle, but if you actually take a look, the peak to be selling Bitcoin was at these prices last time around. We're taking a look at this. I mean, we're looking at this zone here. We are incredibly high when you actually look at the charts and see where $50,000 is in the previous cycle. So we are at really nice price points here, and we do have the potential to go higher. As I've just stated, we have reclaimed that $1 trillion market cap for Bitcoin as well, which was last witnessed in December 2021. So we are seeing Bitcoin have a huge amount of optimism surrounding it right now. Bitcoin bull market is back, allegedly. So ETF inflows and call options are fueling Bitcoin's pump, and these analysts are saying, look, Bitcoin could actually reach a new all-time high pre-halving in March. Imagine if we hit $70,000 in March. That would be absolutely insane. We've been calling this from the start. We've been on these live streams since Bitcoin was down at $16,000. It is now up at $52,250, and we are seeing really bullish potential here. Somebody says you can't see my screen. I can see the screen on my end of YouTube. Can everybody see my screen today? On my end, it looks like you can see the screen. Maybe I'm not zoomed in enough. Is that what you mean? Let's take a look at what's going on here anyway. So a Bitcoin dip back to $48,000 looks logical, but Bitcoin isn't always logical. Let's point that out. So that's what this analyst is suggesting here. Some potential here for upwards momentum. I mean, a pullback isn't something I'd necessarily complain about. Seeing pullbacks makes the Bitcoin price stronger, builds new levels of support, gives us an opportunity to buy the dip if we haven't already. Pullbacks are healthy for the Bitcoin price, but seeing a new all-time high by March could be really interesting. It scares me a little. I know I've said this on yesterday's stream because typically a Bitcoin halving comes a couple of months after a Bitcoin all-time high comes a couple of months after the Bitcoin halving. If we have one now, we're kind of ruining those cycles a little bit and ruining the trends, and that scares me because if the trend isn't your friend, then how are we meant to make our predictions? But still, a nice move to the upside would be a brilliant thing to see here. And we'd all have big smiles on our faces for the live streams. Let's take a look at what else is going on here. Now, we have Gary Gensler. I want to try and find this on Twitter before we continue with today's stream. Gary Gensler has stated that Bitcoin is not decentralized. Interesting statement to be made there. So let's take a look if we can find this on Twitter. Who am I best? I watched this on Twitter yesterday. Let's decentralize. Let's see if we can find it. People on Twitter spell decentralized with a Z, I believe. Gary, make it come up. I mean, I should have pulled this up pre-stream. Sorry about this. Let's see if we've got a link for it in here. So, Gensler appeared on CNBC on Wednesday to discuss cryptocurrency and Bitcoin after a series of questions. one of the hosts stated, which is the attraction since it's decentralized, and Gensler responded by saying it's not that decentralized. It's not that decentralized because look at how Binance tends towards centralization. Since antiquity, we have a handful of 3 to 6 core so-called crypto exchanges. Gensler then seemed to question if Bitcoin's decentralized ledger was appealing at all, suggesting it was not an important metric, describing it as just an accounting ledger. It's almost immutable, one of the hosts hit back with, but Gensler said, do you trust it more than an Oracle database? With him replying, I trust it more than a lot of things. The host questions Gensler's stance. The above conversation occurred towards the end of the video clip. However, towards the start, the same host questioned Gensler on his historical views on Bitcoin. The host stated that Gensler used to teach about Bitcoin at MIT, following on with, it is troublesome, and if I look at it and I see all the metrics of it, and someone that taught about it and understands it seems to have an opinion that maybe it's, rockish or something. Gensler then directed the topic towards non-compliance in cryptocurrency. We know that that's the best way to go for him. Let's see if we can find this video on the stream, because we do have... I think we may have posted this actually. Let's check out cryptosavingexpert.com. I'll pull this in so you can see where I'm looking. Let's see if we've posted any of the media within the last couple of days. If you want to get your latest cryptocurrency news, make sure to go to Crypto Saving Exp, not Crypto Saving Experts, just Crypto Saving Exp on Twitter, because Twitter doesn't let you have a user name any longer than that. And make sure to follow us and turn on your bell notifications so you don't miss any of the latest cryptocurrency news. Let's see if we can find this. So Gensler has made this. I don't think we've put the video up ourselves. I will come back to try and find that towards later on in today's stream. Let's have one more go. Anyone have any questions as well? Just pop them in the chat and I will try and answer them as best as I can. In fact, I know where I can find this. Let's take a look at what's going. I'm trying to multitask here all at once, and it's not too successful here. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat. Let's pull this down. So I've found it. I have found it. We're in. We've got it. Okay. Here we go. I will press the sound very loud. Hopefully you can hear clearly what's going on here.
Not that decentralized.
Well, I know you're saying because of the make difference is part of the attraction since it's decentralized and you can't have a profligate central bank.
It's not that decentralized.
Well, I know you're saying because of the ETFs, but really it is.
No, it's not that decentralized because look how finance tends towards centralization since antiquity. Right. So what do we have? We have a handful of 3 to 6 core so-called crypto
I understand,
exchanges.
but the asset itself, the way that
that's how the accounting ledger.
Right. That's how the ledger. And
now, how many times do you have people on this show that say, "I want to invest in something because how the books and records are kept"? I mean, Joe, really? It's just an accounting ledger, a clever.
It's a ledger that everyone has and can't be double counted. It's almost immutable. That's why people think it has.
So you trust it more than an Oracle database, or you trust it more than make difference?
Which is part of the attraction since it's decentralized and you can't have a profligate central bank.
It's not that decentralized.
Well, I know you're saying because of the ETFs, but really it is.
No, it's not that decentralized.
Okay, we've watched a turn up a little. That was the loudest it could go. I really need to improve on that, how I can just present videos on a stream. There is a way to do it so you get the sound from the computer. Haven't worked out yet. I hope you heard that all okay though. Monkey Nut says in the chat he really hates Bitcoin. He really does at the moment. Well, he gives off the perception that he hates Bitcoin. Does he hate Bitcoin? Because he used to teach about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and Ethereum in his lectures. So interesting change of heart here. Strong change of heart here from Gary Gensler. We all know that story. Now he is saying Bitcoin is not that decentralized, and he's saying, well, why are people investing something because of the way the ledger works? When has that ever happened before? It doesn't need to happen before for you to understand the value of a decentralized network. We've never had this kind of opportunity come out before either. So I think that was a poor argument there to be made over and over again. I like that the CNBC people are actually kind of targeting here and saying, no, if you have valid points, make them. If they're not valid, skip them over. I liked that kind of, they gave him a chance to speak, but he really didn't have any strong points to come and combat the issue that he thinks, well, what he thinks is an issue, which is Bitcoin. But let's take a look at what else has been going on here. We can move on from Gary Gensler. So we are seeing BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF top $720 million in daily volume, marking highest level to date. So this is really nice to see, because when the Bitcoin ETFs first went live, a lot of people were saying, yeah, this is really positive, but a lot of these won't survive the year. We're going to see a lot of hype when they first launch, and then it will kind of fizzle off. This isn't what we've been seeing here. We've seen total inflows set to pass $5 billion once trading closes for the day, bringing its Bitcoin hoard to a little over 96,670 Bitcoin. We are seeing the volatility and the interest continue to increase for these spot Bitcoin ETFs, and I think there's a huge amount of potential here. We've all been saying since day dot that when Bitcoin ETFs launch, they are changing the cryptocurrency space. They're removing a barrier for entry. We're seeing these huge issuers advertise cryptocurrency. Huge opportunity there. Let's see what's going on in the next article here, because we've spoken about these Bitcoin ETFs a lot. One thing we need to be aware of is Genesis has given permission to sell $1.3 billion worth of GBTC. Now, if we think back to just a couple of weeks ago, we saw Rob's just said in the chat, just watching this at 1.5 times to catch up to live. Very squeaky, haha. I speak very quickly and very high pitched, and that is something I'm working on. I've been working on it for a while, but it's a work in progress. What's happening here is Genesis has been given permission to sell $1.3 billion worth of GBTC. If we think back to what happened just a couple of weeks ago, there was a huge amount of outflows for GBTC, and that actually caused the price. Well, it could have been the reason as to why Bitcoin dumped 22%. Now, that was because there was a huge amount of inflows, including FTX selling over $1 billion worth of GBTC. So if we look at the values here and we look at the value of the GBTC that was dumped to create that 22% decrease, we could look at this with a little bit of bearish fear in us, because the impact FTX had selling this amount of GBTC stock. A bit like I've said GBTC about 50,000 times by now. Essentially, FTX sold over $1 billion worth of GBTC. Bitcoin fell 22%. Now, Genesis have been given permission to sell $1.3 billion worth of GBTC. Will Bitcoin dump again? Potentially. The option is there. We don't know how fast Genesis are going to sell this, whether they are going to sell it as quickly as FTX did. And we have to remember that when FTX was selling, other people were creating outflows for GBTC to move into other Bitcoin ETFs with lower fees, etc. Let's see what else is going on here. Rob C says, lol, I don't think she talks that fast. Rob says, no, you're fine, Jess, just at 1.5, very squeaky. Jonathan says, I love your voice, Jess, don't change. I think sometimes I listen to it back and I am very squeaky sometimes, especially when I'm on a rant. If I'm on a rant, I'm speaking fast and I'm speaking incredibly high pitch. Let's take a look at what is going on here though. So just something to be cautious of, but again, we don't know the rate at which they will be selling. We did see the impact of FTX selling such a huge amount on the markets, but we do have built confidence and built demand for Bitcoin now as well. And I think when FTX were dumping theirs, it was kind of immediately after the ETFs had launched, and there was a slight fear in the markets to how it would react post-ETF. The markets were definitely more susceptible and more fragile at that point in time, because nobody really knew which way Bitcoin was going to respond to those ETFs. A lot of people were saying buy the rumor, sell the news. A lot of people were saying it's going to just moon after this. So when we were seeing a little bit of bearish momentum, a lot of people had paper hands in a sense, and were really not as diamond handy as we are now. I think a lot of us have seen, look, these ETFs have a huge amount of potential. Yes, Bitcoin can still see some dumps, but we are looking at a really good 2024. So if we do see a huge amount of outflows from GBTC, I think the market's got more confidence right now. Let's see what's going on here. Rob says no one likes listening to their own voice. True, but I have to do it every single day. Every single day. I used to do it a lot more when we used to do kind of pre-recorded videos. I used to sit and edit them every day, and I just it's not a fun experience, but by the end of it, you get used to it. Randy says, don't forget to take a breath too. Yeah, I need to take more breaths as well. I think I need to do that too. Let's take a look at what's going on. Let's take a look at what else is going on here in the news today. Only 5% of Robinhood's crypto trading volume comes from Bitcoin ETFs. So only a tiny fraction of Robinhood's crypto trading volumes come from Bitcoin ETFs. A crypto-friendly trading app released its Q4 2023 results. During the earnings call, the chief financial officer revealed that Bitcoin ETFs represent just 5% of the company's crypto trading volume. But this is from Q4, so I believe this will be about Bitcoin futures, ETFs, etc. Wanrick said 95% of Robinhood's crypto trading volume comes directly from spot trading. I mean, at this point in time, Robinhood's audience is very much people that they've got a younger audience. And also, if you are trading on Robinhood, why would you choose to invest in Bitcoin ETF when you can buy the underlying asset on the same platform? When the same platform holds them both, you definitely rather hold the underlying asset. If we take a look here, he has said, we think it increases overall market interest in crypto and also brings liquidity to the market. So net, we're really pleased with the Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin ETFs are super positive, but if you're trading somewhere that offers the underlying assets as well, I think it's a no-brainer. Let's see what else is going on. Rob says, I reckon we need some Team Jess merchandise on CSE. I think I'd like that too. Let's see what else is going on here. I'll pitch that to the team. I'm not sure we'll get any bites, but we'll pitch it to the team. Let's see what's going on here. Before we continue, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. Let's take a look at this. This is an interesting one, a very interesting one, because times are changing for the mining companies. Think this is a difficult period of time here. So essentially, let's start this from the beginning. A mining company is a company that buys really complex computers, powers them with loads of energy, and just lets them run. All of these computers are just trying to add a block onto the Bitcoin blockchain. They're all competing to add blocks onto the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, when there's a mechanism in the Bitcoin kind of core code that says that Bitcoin should only have a block mined every 10 minutes. Now, this isn't perfect. How we manage this is that if too many miners are trying to all add blocks onto the blockchain at once, the difficulty to add a block onto the blockchain will increase. So this means that miners are less likely to solve their complex cryptographic puzzle and add a block onto the blockchain. It will take a little bit longer. If there's not many miners trying to add blocks onto the Bitcoin blockchain, the difficulty will decrease. So this means that they are more likely to add a block onto the blockchain and hit that kind of every 10-minute target. So essentially, it's not kind of like 10 minutes has passed, now somebody add a block onto the blockchain. It's more the difficulty to mine changes to try and get that average 10-minute block schedule in place. So when we're looking at the Bitcoin mining difficulty, the more Bitcoin miners there are, the more effort being put towards the Bitcoin blockchain, the higher the difficulty is going to be. Otherwise, too many blocks are going to be mined at once, and that's not what we want to see. So the difficulty is constantly changing for Bitcoin miners. Obviously, the higher the difficulty and the more competitive this becomes, the more concerned Bitcoin miners become, because they need to put extra effort into mining, and then it becomes more expensive. So we can see, if we go back to 2012, if we go back to the early days of Bitcoin, you used to be able to mine Bitcoin on your computer at home. You had a little MacBook, you could just set it up and let it mine some Bitcoin. You were earning 50 Bitcoin per block back in the day, and you could make a huge amount of Bitcoin that way. Now, that was possible because the competition for mining Bitcoin was low. As the competition has increased and this difficulty level has increased, we now need complex hardware to try and have a chance of mining Bitcoin. I mean, you can get small devices that have like a 0.01% chance of being able to mine a Bitcoin block, and they're kind of more like a lottery mining tool. We do have some articles about them on Crypto Saving Expert, but on the whole, if you're a serious mining company, you need to buy seriously complex hardware to try and get the opportunity to mine a block and earn those Bitcoin rewards. Now, as the Bitcoin mining difficulty is increasing, what we are going to see is difficulty. That's more difficult for miners. Now, this is a really interesting point because right now, Bitcoin miners receive 6.25 Bitcoin per block. After April, they're only going to receive 3.125 Bitcoin. We're seeing a lot of articles that are doing the analysis and working out the price of Bitcoin, the price that Bitcoin needs to be in order for mining companies to survive post-halving. Now, only 2 of the major mining companies can still be profitable if Bitcoin is below $40,000. And this is where we typically see this bull market following the Bitcoin halving. The inflation rate is being halved, and the mining companies also need Bitcoin's price to go up to survive. If you are currently receiving 6.25 Bitcoin at $50,000 per Bitcoin, as a mining company, and you are only just profitable, well then to be profitable post halving, you need Bitcoin to be at least $100,000. So this price increase is crucial for the mining companies to continue to operate and support the Bitcoin network. But right now we are seeing the Bitcoin mining difficulty set to hit a record high amid US miner scrutiny. So let's take a look at this article quickly. Bitcoin mining's landscape is poised for another challenge as mining difficulty is set to rise by nearly 8%. Data from CoinWars shows that this increase, which is expected to hit a new record high, will surpass 81 trillion at block height 830,592. The network is expected to reach this milestone by 3:16 p.m. today. So this surge is part of an ongoing trend observed since the year's onset, reflecting the escalating computational demands confronting miners on the premier digital asset network, especially with the looming halving event. So Bitcoin mining difficulty undergoes readjustments every 2016 blocks, roughly every 2 weeks. The process is crucial for the network to gauge whether mining activities during the period resulted in reduced or increased block discovery time. So miners are under scrutiny right now because of its electricity usage. We're always seeing articles about Bitcoin not being environmentally friendly because these mining rigs need a huge amount of energy being pushed into them, and around 50% of the time it's not renewable energy either. So we're looking at these articles right now. Bitcoin mining companies are ramping up because they've got 2 months to make as much Bitcoin as possible. If you're going to put effort in within the next 6 months, you may as well put it in now when you're earning 6.25 Bitcoin per block, rather than later when you're earning 3.125 Bitcoin per block. All of these mining companies are scaling up right now, trying to make as much money Bitcoin as possible. Obviously, with Bitcoin's price pumping as well, that's brilliant to see. But I imagine after halving, we're going to see maybe some changes in the Bitcoin mining landscape. We see concerns over this every 4 years. We see these articles saying, look, these companies aren't going to survive, but most of the time they do manage to. And as I keep saying, if they don't manage to, then we are just seeing a little bit more decentralization for the network, because these mining companies push a huge amount of power into Bitcoin. If they effectively turn off, then what's going to happen is the difficulty is going to reduce and the barrier for entry is going to come down a little bit for people with maybe weaker hardware to get involved in the space. Let's see what else is going on in the chat here. Jonathan says Team Jets. Rob says I agree. I forgot that's how it works. Being here too long. BTC bouncing back on the 54.55. Yes, Rob, a jet black t-shirt with Jess wearing a jet black top. Don't think she'll get that red dwarf reference. Very niche. It is very niche. I still didn't get it. Let's take a look at what's going on for Bitcoin here. Somebody says we're taking a look at this higher level, $52,237 still. Let's take a look on the hourly chart. We are kind of bouncing at these points. We do have a zone of resistance between $52,000 and $53,000 from the previous bull market. So definitely keeping an eye on these levels. But right now, Bitcoin is just on a tear to the upside. Had a little bit of a rejection bounce yesterday, but we'll keep a close eye on this. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the crypto news here, though. So first of all, 21 countries have already seen a Bitcoin all-time high in 2024. So weak currencies have seen Bitcoin go to all-time highs this year. Let me check everything is okay here. So we have seen weak currencies have seen Bitcoin go to all-time highs this year. We've got a specific article here. Bitcoin yen pair hits record high, reflects stress on Japan's fiat currency. What we're seeing is 17% of the world's population has already seen Bitcoin hit all-time highs in 2024. This figure translates to 1.35 billion people across the globe. The list includes Argentina, Ukraine, Turkey, Nigeria, Kenya, Japan, Egypt, and many others. So the list of countries demonstrates where inflation is out of control. When inflation runs high and is not controlled, it can bring economies to their knees. So in countries like this, you can see that Bitcoin has been acting as a hedge against inflation here. Something that we all talk about, especially in the bull markets, and then kind of push to the side in the bear markets until Bitcoin's looking green again. You can't say we're not all a little bit biased when it comes to Bitcoin from time to time, but let's see what else is going on in the news. Interesting news here, obviously, is as a result of inflation. So not the best to be seeing, but we can see that Bitcoin has helped improve some people's investment choices. Let's see what's going on. Crypto Cody says, I don't think we're going to see those 30-40% dips on the way up with the ETFs in place now. What do you think? I mean, I think that every single bull market, we see a huge amount of headlines and a huge amount of crypto people and YouTube people saying this time is different. Last bull market, a load of people saying we're going to see a super cycle this year. Bear market's not coming. We're just going to go up and up and up. And obviously that was not the case. Bitcoin's been down to $16,000. It's been a very painful bear market. I am very much against the idea of saying this time is different. I like to think that unless time plays out and it is different, I will expect the same things again. I will expect 20-30% drops along the way. I don't want to be naive to that idea, and I think post Bitcoin ETFs we've already seen a 22% drop, so we do know that is possible. I think these Bitcoin ETFs have a huge potential to massively promote and help with the adoption of Bitcoin in the long term, really beneficial for the industry, but it does not need to be in a straight line to be beneficial. There's a huge amount of opportunity here when it comes to these Bitcoin ETFs and the way that they can push Bitcoin forwards, but we can't expect that to just happen in one straight line. I think pullbacks are something that we will continue to see in the Bitcoin space. I also believe that we will see another bear market. I think, yes, Bitcoin ETFs are super bullish for the space, but we will have some pullbacks. Bitcoin can't just go up in a straight line forever. People need to take profit. At some point, there will be some sort of negative news that will just drag us back down again, pull us into this bear market mentality. We can't think up only and we can't think down only. We need to be looking at what's actually going on in the markets. Bitcoin does have the ability to rocket to the upside, but we also need to be aware that we can't just expect it to go up forever. I think we will see some pullbacks along the way. Let's see what's going on here. JB says, really and truly, we want the 4-year cycle to repeat forever. Yes, we do. We want millionaires to be to just be printed forever. But I don't think this is possible. In my eyes, I think we're looking at a big bull market here, a bear market, a bull market, but like a not as big one for Bitcoin. And then we start to find Bitcoin's fair market value. The whole thing here in the markets is just finding Bitcoin's fair market value. Bitcoin has a fair market value somewhere. I think it's much higher than where we are right now. And we just need to get to that point and reduce the amount of volatility for Bitcoin. And I think that's happening slowly over time. If you take a look at the data, Bitcoin's volatility is reducing, although it may not seem like it now. Let's see what's going on here. Rob says, I don't think I've ever seen Jordan get these propositions in his chat. I know, strange, isn't it, Rob? Let's see what else is going on in the news here. So, UK has officially entered a recession following a 0.3% GDP contraction. If we take a look here, the definition of a recession is a significant and sustained decline in economic activity across an entire economy. They are typically measured by a decrease in gross domestic product over 2 consecutive consecutive quarters, with a quarter being 3 months. And that is what we have now seen in the UK. So it slipped into a recession towards the end of last year as households tightened their belts amid escalating interest rates and mounting living expenses. So we are seeing the cost of living crisis. Data from the Office of National Statistics has shown that gross domestic product dropped by 0.3% in the 3 months leading up to December. Downturns across significant sectors of the economy and a decline in retail sales were the cause. This downturn is the second consecutive quarter of economic contraction, following the 0.1% decline of the previous quarter. The data presents a challenge for the government, particularly with an upcoming election. The announcement will be particularly tricky for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, given his emphasis on economic growth last year. Overall growth for 2023 was 0.1%, which, ignoring the sharp decline experienced during the COVID pandemic, is the UK's weakest performance since 2009, when the country was still struggling with the 2008 financial crisis. The Director of Economic Statistics has said our initial assessment indicates a contraction in the UK economy during the fourth quarter of 2023. Although experiencing consecutive quarterly declines, the economy remained relatively stagnant throughout 2023. Economists have widely anticipated a mild recession towards the end of the year, attributing to the financial strain on households due to increased borrowing costs and surging prices for essential goods, prompting spending cutbacks. Additionally, widespread strikes and adverse weather conditions further dampened economic activity. So this is what we are seeing in the UK right now. We'll see how this plays out. I think a lot of us have been predicting this for a long time. To see data like this, I mean, it's not ideal, it's not perfect, but we'll see how this plays out. Let's take a look at the next one here and see what's going on. Jonathan says in the chat, we might have a super cycle, and he's Bob Lucas. Is he a YouTuber? He thinks we're going to see a super cycle is possible, and he's very level-headed, but he thinks we have more idea by the end of March. Satoshi reckoned it'll hit $1 million. Usually when he says this time it's different, we're wrong, but this time it's different. I know, when we say this time is different, it makes me really, really nervous, because I've fallen into that trap before. This time is not different. This time is the same. But Bitcoin ETFs are here. So we do need to be aware of that. If Satoshi reckoned it hit $1 million, I mean Bitcoin, I'd love to see Bitcoin hit $1 million. I would absolutely love to see that be the case. Let's see what else is going on in the cryptocurrency news. We're just going to run through these last few articles, and then we'll take a look at the Bitcoin price, take a look at what's going on in the chat. So ApeCoin DAO opts to develop ApeChain with Arbitrum tech stack. So ApeChain will be going under development. We've got crypto user spent 42.88 Ethereum on gas, and then he was rugged an hour later. So he spent $110,000 on gas, acquiring $26,000 of a newly released token, and then got rugged after 35 minutes. So not very nice to see here. Let's see what else is going on here. Coinbase rolls out Apple Pay for users to buy crypto. Nice to see. Just making that crypto purchase even more seamless. And we are seeing US cyber authorities investigate Binance's Trust Wallet iOS app for vulnerabilities, because the wallet has been the victim of multiple cyber attacks during 2023. So time is going there just to check what's actually happening there. But let's take a look at what's going on right now in the chat. So we're looking at the Bitcoin price. Let's pull this up while we talk. Let's pull this up, and let's maybe go to the 1 minute chart here, so we can see some fun price action here. So Crypto Cody says, thinking about selling half of my Cardano and splitting it between Beam and Stacks. Thoughts? I can't give any financial advice. I can't give any opinions on the tokens themselves. I think right now I think every single 4-year cycle, we do tend to see Bitcoin perform well, then high cap perform well, then mid cap perform well, then low cap perform well. I think with all of these things, you need to look at the utility of these tokens and make sure you like them for the long term. And you want to be investing into projects that you actually believe in, because if we see a 30% pullback for Bitcoin and a 40% pullback for your altcoin, you don't want to look at your portfolio and go, do you know what? This is all trash. You want to look at it and go, this has real utility. This is just a pullback. In fact, I want to buy in the dip. You want to be so bullish on your tokens that a 40% pullback does not scare you. And there's not many tokens that you can feel that confident in. I will be blatantly obvious there. There are a lot of tokens that you can feel super bullish on, but you need to make sure that you do not You will not become an emotional trader if the prices start to decrease to the downside, and that helps you determine what altcoins you truly believe in and what coins you want to be invested in. I think right now is a really nice time to be a little bit more diversified compared to just holding Bitcoin, but I can't suggest which altcoins are best for you to diversify into. Rob says, I reckon we'll have a faster, quicker cycle. People will not want to lose profits and might take them earlier, seeing a shift in the peak timing. Well, this is a potential here, you know, because I have actually done a lot of research on this. Is an interesting thing here. Now, I don't want to say this time's different, but how easy is it? I don't want, no, it's not easy. It's really hard to stay in cryptocurrency during a bear market. Everybody's super negative and all that kind of stuff. But how easy is it to now predict the all-time high timing for Bitcoin? Because we've seen these 4-year cycles so many times. Last cycle, we did see a little bit of a little bit of uncertainty at the top there. We saw kind of 2 all-time highs last cycle. We were pretty down in the dumps in May last time. If we go to the daily chart and we pull up what happened here, the all-time high occurred in April 2021, and then we saw us just beat past that $4,000 higher in November 2021. We had an insane pullback along the way there as well. That's something we've never really seen before. We've seen double tops, but not that extreme. So if we're looking at what's happening this time around, is the potential for the all-time high to be pre-halving and the bull market top to be before kind of September 2025? Potentially. I think that is a serious option that we should consider, and I think taking profits is always really, really important. We're all super bullish on Bitcoin. This is, in my opinion, just the start of a really exciting time for Bitcoin, but always make sure you are taking profits because it's so easy to make money during a bull market in crypto. It's hard to keep them. We all know that by now. Let's take a look here. Rob says, I just think last time people thought we were hitting 120k before the double top. There might be a slight shift in timings. I think last time a lot of people got caught up in we're going to hit 100k, we're going to hit 100k. This is a super cycle. And I think I always tend to stay away from Bitcoin halvings. I always go off timings instead. And this is why I am uncomfortable with the idea of a Bitcoin all-time high pre-halving. If Bitcoin sees a little bit downwards momentum now, a little bit of sideways action now, I'll be perfectly content with what Bitcoin's done pre-halving and be looking for some really nice price predictions. But I always go off timings, and if the Bitcoin halving comes pre-halving, if the Bitcoin all-time high comes pre-halving, that kind of puts all the timings out the window, and we need to create a new strategy there. So obviously, the trend is your friend until the end, but if this is the end of the trend, we need to be looking for new ones here. And maybe, potentially, we could see the all-time high for this cycle being a little bit earlier than we are expecting right now. Jonathan says he expects a double top this time too. Yeah, I mean, this was definitely the path of most pain last cycle, coming all the way down here and then suddenly mooning again. Bitcoin always takes the path of most pain, and I think we could see something similar again this year, this cycle. Sorry, I'm prepared for that right now. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, I think also this is the point I wanted to make then. Saying to yourself, Bitcoin's going to hit X amount in this cycle and I'm going to sell is a really, really unideal way to trade the markets. In the last cycle, in the last bull market, I had a target for what I wanted my dollar value of my portfolio to be. My Bitcoin value for my portfolio to be. And I got so close to that at this point right here. And then the entire market crashed. I was completely over leveraged and I lost out on all of those gains and everything I'd been working on through this period of time. And then we had to start completely from scratch and learn how to build a portfolio basically from zero. This is why I always say my portfolio is not as big as all the YouTubers in the space. What we can see though is what I learned from that is though, it's having a dollar value, having a Bitcoin value, having a target value for your portfolio. Yes, like having one in the back of your mind is fine, but having one that you're saying like, if Bitcoin reaches $200,000, I'm going to sell it all. That's a dangerous game because Bitcoin could reach $199,000. I think dollar cost averaging in and out is definitely the best strategy when it comes to cryptocurrency because well and truly, nobody knows how high this is going to go and nobody knows how low this is going to go. Taking advantage of every opportunity when you get them is super important. Obviously, we all want to be super exposed to Bitcoin if it's going to have this huge rally to the upside off the back of these Bitcoin ETFs. But we also need to be prepared that we are people who have emotions, and when the price of Bitcoin may have some pullbacks, we may get a little bit emotional. We may decide to sell into some dumps. So I think dollar cost averaging in, dollar cost averaging out, finding a strategy that makes you emotionless when it comes to your portfolio is the most profitable method. Somebody could say, like, I always go by dollar cost averaging in, because if the price of Bitcoin goes down now, I'm going to buy some more. If it goes up right now, I'm going to be happy with my portfolio and the direction things are going. If you do not have that kind of outlook, or that kind of strategy that makes you emotionless when it comes to your portfolio, you are not going to be able to make consistent gains in this space, no matter what direction the things are going in. So we just need to be careful and always do things with your emotions in mind, and consider the worst case scenarios and how you would deal with them. Make a plan that's going to keep you emotionless and stick to it. That is the most important thing that I need to get across to you guys today. Let's see what's going on here. Crypto Cody says he's taking out 20% in May, June, July, August and September of 2025. PG says he's doing the same. GB says don't be greedy. That's a good strategy too. It definitely is. Monkey Nut says he's starting to take profits in Christmas 24. Rob says I think maybe we'll hit half the amount the Bitcoin narrative is saying. For example, if consensus says 500k, it'll be 250k, as people will not pay 400k per Bitcoin to hope it goes to 500k. They want 2x minimum. Put your crypto coins passive. That's what I'm doing. And do you know what? That's absolutely insane to think. Like, that, what Rob's just said in the chat, that is very true. I think if Bitcoin reaches like 100, do you know what though, Rob? People do invest in the bull market. In the last cycle, I knew people that invested at like 60k, and then the potential isn't at that point in time. If Bitcoin's at 400k, people will probably be shouting for $1 million Bitcoin. That's always the way. I think, yes, the kind of upwards potential for Bitcoin may get smaller over periods of time, and people might be less positive. My camera's just died, so we're going to close off today's stream. But I think there's potential here that Bitcoin, like, I forgot what I was going on where I was going with that then. People are looking at other altcoins at that point in the market as well. That's why we see these cycles between Bitcoin, high cap, mid caps and low caps, because as the cycle goes on, people think they've missed out on Bitcoin, so they look for other altcoins and other cryptocurrencies instead. But anyway, my camera's died now, so that's the end of today's stream. Thanks very much for tuning in. As